government, and Section 2, non-tax revenues and borrowing. Non-tax revenue. The largest sum of money reaches the federal treasury by different non-tax sources, about $40 billion a year. Most of the money comes from the Federal Reserve System. Interest, of course, is charged for borrowed money, generally a percentage of the amount borrowed.
Sources of non-tax money. Interest on loans and fees. Treasury Department has a conscience fund, money that people owe from past tax-paying mistakes, seigniorage, the profit the U.S. makes in the production of coins, and sales branch of U.S. Postal Service sells mint conditions to us.
So why would someone buy one of those philatelic stamps? Okay, possibly it could be theme-based, might be money, a portion of the proceeds going to a particular cause, but I mean, why else would someone get involved in those types of stamp sales?
To show like what they favor.
Okay. Believe it or not, there's actually collectors who try and have value. I mean, those can be worth, if you get the right stamps, can be worth an awful lot of money.
Borrowing. Congress has powers to borrow money on the credit of the United States. This is stated in Article 1, Section 8, Clause 2. Power to borrow is viewed as a way for government to meet the cost of short and long-term crises. Number 2, finance large-scale projects that can be paid out of the current income. This is an example of what happened in World War I, World War II, and the Great Depression.
So where does America borrow money from?
Right here is a chart that was made about a year ago, and it shows that America owes $17,000 or trillion dollars. And over here on this side we have where all of these different places where they get their money and they borrow their money from. Some of it comes from the U.S., like the Federal Reserve, Social Security, U.S. Military Retirement Fund, but then also others come from foreign nations like China, Japan, Belgium, Brazil, the United Kingdom.
Interestingly enough, last week Japan became the #1 entity holding. They just surpassed China in terms of holding U.S. securities. So they hold more of our debt than any other nation now.
Yeah. And the national deficit continues to grow.
Debt or deficit? Let's be real clear, because I know that can. Are you going to talk more about that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Deficit and surplus. Federal government borrowed for deficit spending when spend more money than collected in tax revenue to borrowed heavily to make up a difference. A deficit is the yearly shortfall between income and outgo. Surplus is more income than outgo. Congress must authorize all federal borrowings. Borrowing is done by the Treasury Department, which issues various kinds of securities, T-bills to investors. T-bills are short-term borrowing or bonds for long-term purposes, which is the IOUs. They also borrow at low interest rates, and the Treasury Department Bureau of the Public Debt act as the federal government borrowing agent. It issues Treasury bills, notes, and bonds, as well as managing the U.S. Savings Bond Program.
And all of this happens in the Treasury Department. Right here is a little scale, and if you guys know how scales work, if there's more money in something, it's heavier. So for the budget deficit, spending is more than the income, so it weighs heavier. And for the budget surplus, there's more income, so the more money is getting into that little bag of income, and spending is less. In a year when the government spends more than it takes in, it must borrow to make up the deficit.
So this fiscal year, the 2014-2015 fiscal year, are we, is the national government spending more than it's taking in tax revenue?
Yes. It seems like every year it's continuing to grow.
Yeah, so tell me this, did you guys in your research, did you find out how much more we're spending this fiscal year than we're taking in tax revenue?
I want to say it's billions of dollars.
How many billion? You're right, how
Yeah.
many billions of dollars?
15 billion? Yeah. Higher?
Like, like 800 billion.
800 billion, I hear. Some people
It's
say.
close. It's actually, that's what it used to be a couple months ago, but we've actually had an increase on some tax revenue due to an increase in the stock market. But we're right around $500 billion spending more. We had to borrow money in order to meet what the government decided it wanted to spend. So that's a deficit. One fiscal year is a deficit. All the deficits added up in the history of the United States equal to what? United States, it's another D word, debt.
The public debt. Public debt is a result of federal government borrowing over many years. Public debt is the government's total outstanding indebtedness. It includes all money borrowed and not yet repaid plus the interest. No constitutional limit on amount borrowed and on public debt. Congress out statutory ceilings on debt, but they still adjust it. And annual interest in the debt is the amount that must be paid each year.
And I think your book, I may be wrong, but I think your textbook said something like 1 out of every $10 goes to just servicing the debt. Is that what your textbook said? Anyway, you can look it up later, but it has grown actually more than that because why? When you call it servicing the debt, it's kind of like with the credit card. I don't know if any of you have a credit card, but you know in the monthly bill it says the minimum payment due is $25. That $25 you turn in, it doesn't do anything towards hitting the debt, the principal. In fact, it doesn't even help with the increase in the interest. They design it that way because they want you to continue to have to pay as long as you can. So when we service the debt, it doesn't mean that we're actually paying it off. It just means we're paying enough so that people would continue to loan us money. Yeah, so, and now it's about 1 out of every $8 spent out of the U.S. budget goes to just servicing the debt.
And over here we have another chart. It's a little bit old. It stopped at 2010, and right now we're in 2015. But you can see how the public debt has grown throughout the years. And the time that you see it the most is just now recently. It has grown. It skyrocketed really quickly to be what it is now. So it's just something to consider.
Which was what? Did you guys see the U.S. debt clock? How much
Yeah.
is it right
I
now?
think it's about
18 trillion.
Almost $18.2 trillion. That's more than our total gross domestic product as a nation.
It's funny how the Democratic party has more debt than the Congress.
Superpower in the world, bro.
Yeah. And you can also
Superpower in the world.
really think about what they believe in and what they are strictly all about, and how that can be the reason why they spend more money. So, and that is all for today. Thank you.